afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Portland Friday Forum. City Club is where we bring civic-minded people together to make Portland and Oregon a better place for everyone to live, work, and play. I am John Horvick, City Club President, and I'd like to welcome members and guests alike, those of you who join us today at the Sentinel Hotel, and those of you listening on OPB Radio or watching on Portland Community Media. Today, we are hosting the Multnomah County Chair candidate debate. But first, some announcements. The generous support of City Club's corporate and media partners ensures we put on the state's best civic programs week after week. I'd like to thank our media partners, including Oregon Business Magazine. Our current Friday Forum sponsors are Chevron, Girding Edlin, Morel Inc., Northwest Natural, Portland Timbers, and Schwabe, Williamson, and Wyatt. We are grateful for your support and commitment to City Club's mission. Please join me in a warm round of applause for all of you. Joining us today are 8 high school teachers representing schools in the Portland Public School District. Following the forum, the teachers will be hosted at the City Club Commons by our very own Civics Education Advocacy Committee for a focus group to discuss the state of civics education in our own district high schools, and to explore effective community support for both classroom instruction and successful student civic engagement experiences in our community. Please help me welcome our PPS teachers to the forum today. City Club's annual membership drive is underway, and we want you to join. For 98 years, City Club has helped shape what Portland is through research, advocacy, and public forums. And we are here to tackle the tough problems we face now. Government cannot solve these issues alone, nor should it. That's where our members come in, and why we need your support. There's no better time than during our own membership drive to save money on membership and receive our gifts like t-shirts, scout books, and tickets to the Oregon Symphony. City Club will be waiting in the back after the forum to sign you up as a member today. Next week, we'll host Jason Conger and Monica Webby for the U.S. Senate Republican debate. Jack Roberts will moderate. We have a couple great evening forums coming up. On Tuesday, May 15th, there will be a panel discussion about restorative practices and racial equity in our schools. And on Wednesday, May 21st, a forum on employment and transportation in Portland's Central East Side. Both of these events are free to attend. You can learn more about these and other club events, purchase tickets, and become a member on our website, pdxcityclub.org. Join City Club in live tweeting today's event. You can follow or mention us at PDX City Club, and be sure to follow the conversation by using the hashtag CityClub in your own tweets. And now to our program. Will Jim Francesconi or Deborah Kafoury help lead the commission to make the best decisions about health and human service, public safety, and other critical issues? Which candidate will ensure Multnomah County can thrive and serve its population of 750,000 residents? Moderating the debate today is Jeff Mapes. Jeff Mapes is a senior political writer at the Oregonian and author of the Mapes on Politics blog. He's covered politics for the Oregonian for 30 years, including many legislative sessions and numerous political campaigns. He is also author of the book Pedaling Revolution: How Cyclists Are Changing American Cities. Please help me welcome our moderator to the stage.
Thank you so much for that very nice applause. It's a good thing it's a home delivery day. Publisher isn't here, is he? Anyway, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And as John said, I am Jeff Mapes from the Oregonian, and it's my privilege to moderate this debate. A few things first. Our timekeeper today is Greg Wallinger, City Club's Research and Policy Director. The debate will have several sections. First, each debater will give a 3-minute opening statement in the order previously determined by picking names out of a hat. Jim Francesconi will open today's debate. Following the opening statement, debaters will respond to questions written in advance of this meeting by City Club's Friday Forum Committee and the City Club staff. These questions were not shared with the debaters. They better not have been. These are the only questions that will be asked today. There will be no questions from the floor. At the conclusion of the questions, the debaters will make their 2-minute closing statements. Deborah Kafoury will close the debate. Please be respectful of the debaters, and please hold all applause until the end of the program. And now the debaters. First, Jim Francesconi. Jim Francesconi has practiced law in Oregon since 1978, first with his own litigation firm specializing in personal injury cases, and most recently with Higland Kelly, where he continues to focus on personal injury and medical negligence claims. In 1997, he was elected to the Portland City Council, where he served for 8 years. As a commissioner, he was responsible for Portland Parks and Recreation, the Portland Department of Transportation, and the city's fire and emergency services. He has a Bachelor of Arts from Stanford University and a law degree from the University of Oregon. He currently serves on the Oregon's State Board of Higher Education. Now to Deborah Kafoury. Deborah Kafoury most recently served for 5 years as a Multnomah County Commissioner representing Inner, Southeast, and West Portland. From 1998 until 2004, she was a member of the Oregon House of Representatives and served as House Minority Leader. She also served as legislative aide to Oregon Congressman Les Aucoin. She has a Bachelor of Arts from Whitman College. And now, if I could please invite the debaters to the stage. All right, Mr. Francesconi, your opening statement.
Thank you. Thanks to the City Club and thanks to my wife, Shelley, who's here today. I'm running for chair of Multnomah County because I'm concerned about the growing gap between rich and poor and because we need leadership to address it. The poverty rate has almost doubled in Multnomah County in the last 11 years, and there's a disproportionate impact on some people. Latinos, it's almost 30%, African Americans, almost 40%. Good intentions are not enough to address glaring inequality. We do need to expand the safety net, but we need to go further and help people help themselves get out of poverty. The focus on reducing poverty and creating economic opportunity will take some persistence. And I have a plan with specific ideas, including ramping up job training that many people need but cannot access. We need to make sure that people in these programs are connected to employers who will hire them. That's how I helped 600 high-risk gang-involved youth be employed by more than 200 private companies before I was elected to the City Council. That's what our youth and our unemployed need now. And then there's the issue of getting low-wage workers a raise. Many underpaid people are working full-time and cannot support their families. I will take the lead on requiring local hiring and living wage ordinances at the county that support hiring and training more unemployed and disadvantaged workers. My work negotiating the community benefits agreement now at the city is one example of experience in doing just that. But another critical priority is supporting our public schools and teachers and getting services to children and families who need them. Over 20,000 children are in poverty in the schools in the county. 3,800 are homeless. The poverty rate is almost 25% of all the kids in our public schools. This is a tragedy, and it's our responsibility to act. Let's immediately begin by expanding the SUN programs to more early childhood and summer programs in poverty schools. Together with Bev Stein, I co-founded the SUNS program, which works to close the achievement gap, provide music and art, and safe places for kids after school. My grandparents came to this country with nothing. They struggled and scraped so that my parents could get a high school education. And my parents sacrificed for me. But the most urgent problem of our times is how can we retain the American dream for our kids and our community? At the county, we are charged with helping the most vulnerable. I believe that means, whenever possible, providing services that also help them get into employment opportunities. It's all about moving together as a community. That's why I'm running for chair of Multnomah County.
Okay, Ms. Kafoury?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. Many of the reasons I am running for Multnomah County Chair come from my mother. As a child, I remember times when we had a family staying with us because they didn't have a home, or a woman needed a safe place to stay who was escaping domestic violence. Seeing my mother's small acts make a big difference in people's lives is what drove me into public and community service. I volunteered in schools, served as a Democratic leader in the Oregon legislature, and on the board of Transition Projects, a nonprofit that helps the homeless. And currently, I am co-PTA president at my children's elementary school. For the last 5 years, I have been honored to serve as a Multnomah County Commissioner, and my work has been guided by this belief that all deserved to be housed, to be healthy, and to be safe. I realize that these are ambitious goals, but as a leader and a mother, these are the goals that I want for my family and for every family in Multnomah County. I supported a domestic violence emergency response team, worked with my colleagues to locate food pantries in schools so that parents could more easily access the nutrition their children need to grow and learn, and successfully fought to keep senior centers open. However, when I was first elected, I asked myself this: what is the one thing I can do that will make the biggest difference in the lives of families? The answer: a safe, stable home. If we can put a roof over a family's head, we can begin to build the foundation under their feet. So that's what I work hard to do. I funded housing advocates to go out in the community, not wait for homeless families to come to us, and get them into affordable apartments, bypassing shelters completely. A stable home allows us to more effectively tackle the other problems, like a drug addiction, mental health issues, or provide much-needed job training, clearing the pathway to self-sufficiency. To strengthen this core mission is why I'm running, and I'm excited to get back to work. Multnomah County is different. We don't spend our time in gridlock. We work well together, and we have made real progress. One example is that after years of hard calls and difficult choices, we are now on solid financial footing. This means we have the opportunity to look forward, to focus on ways to prevent crises from happening in the first place. This will be my vision for all my work as chair, and I believe that Multnomah County's future is bright. In the Oregonians' recent endorsement of my candidacy, they spoke to my integrity, my level-headedness, and perhaps more importantly, that people trust me. This is what you get with me. When people trust what you say, and together we can move beyond the politics without worrying about who gets the credit, that's when you can really get things done. Thank you.
Okay. We will now move to the portion of the program where I will ask the questions prepared by the Friday Forum Committee and City Club staff. There are up to 3 different kinds of questions. I will direct questions to both debaters, each of whom will have 60 seconds to respond. I will direct some questions to one debater. He or she will have 60 seconds to respond, and the other will then have 45 seconds to rebut. Finally, we will move to the lightning round, where I will pose a series of questions that candidates must answer in a single word or hold up the waffle card. Hope you're suitably equipped there. They will not be given a chance to explain their answer. We encourage our debaters to use their time not only to offer their response, but also to rebut their opponent's statement. We will begin with a question to both debaters. Deborah Kafoury will answer first. What are some concrete actions you can take to restore faith in county leadership following Jeff Cogan's resignation?
Well, the good news is that I think that what happened at Multnomah County last summer, as difficult as it was for the employees, for the residents of Multnomah County, and for the commissioners, was really based on poor decisions made by 1 or 2 people. It doesn't reflect the good work that Multnomah County has done. We have worked as Multnomah County commissioners together for the past 5 years to balance our budget. It was no easy task. We had to focus our priorities. We had to cut programs that were near and dear to people's hearts, and we had to work together and find partnerships with community members. But we did it, and now we're on solid financial footing. And I think the number one thing we can do is to continue to focus on the priorities, the mission of Multnomah County, to ensure that people understand that we're here to work for you.
Mr. Francesconi?
Well, I understand what happened, obviously, but I don't think it's reflected on Multnomah County workers. The 4,700 workers do the most important work, I believe, in this region. They take care of our most vulnerable, and they continue to do that through the whole episode. The question is how we move forward in a more collaborative effort with not only the county commissioners and the department directors, but the workers themselves to tackle difficult issues. The reason the county has resources is because of the library district having passed and the generosity of the public. So now we do need to look across the departments in order to look at performance measurements, more audits, including on the mental health division that hasn't happened for a long time, how we free up additional resources to help people in need by engaging the workers in that common effort. That's what I will do, and that's what I would be honored to lead.
Okay, now a question to Jim Francesconi. Give us your assessment of how the county has managed its bridges over the Willamette River, and what, if any, changes would you make?
Well, you know, the county manages 26 bridges, and they manage 300 miles of roads, and they manage 30 arterials that are really critical in East County as well. The reason I mention that is because the 6 Willamette River bridges should be part of a regional bridge authority, and it's not a new structure. It's part of TriMet and Metro. I sat on the JPAC committee, and adding the regional bridges to this is something that's essential both for fairness, those that people use the bridges need to pay for them, like Clackamas County on the Selwood Bridge, but also because there's still tremendous, about $500 million of maintenance that's required for those downtown bridges. So having a structure where the city of Portland, who's willing to contribute to this, having other people contribute needs to happen so the county then can also take some of those critical resources to help develop infrastructure in East County.
Ms. Kafoury, your response?
Thank you. I'm proud of the work that Multnomah County has done with our bridges. I think that the bridges really replicate what we do at Multnomah County, which is reduce, reuse, recycle. We have some of the oldest bridges in the entire country, and they're still in use because the people that we have working on them work hard every day. I don't believe we need a regional bridge authority. I think that's just another unnecessary layer of government. We have done what a regional bridge authority should do, which is to get partners, the city, the state, the federal government. I led the effort to replace the Selwood Bridge, and I'm really proud of the work that we did, getting other folks to come to the table because we made the case. Creating a regional bridge authority is not going to magically appear a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and that's what we need. We need money to fix our bridges. But we have to go to the public and make our case.
Okay, next question to Deborah Kafoury. A 2011 City Club report was heavily critical of the county's delivery of mental health services and even suggested that someone else should oversee them. Have things gotten any better since then, and what would you do in this area if you became chair?
Mental health funding is crucially important at Multnomah County. You only have to walk in the streets of downtown Portland to know that things are not working for our public. The commissioners at Multnomah County and myself understand this so well that in addition to the money we receive from the state and the federal government, we add $16.5 million a year of general fund dollars to the budget. And I'm really proud that the commissioners led by Interim Chair Marisa Madrigal have added additional dollars to mental health funding in this year's budget. It's crucial. But I believe when I talk to folks who are providers of mental health care, they tell me that the number one thing that they need is more housing. That's crucial. Second of all, our partners who provide services, they know what works. We need to fund it. People tell me that they have to create new programs in order to get funding, and that's just wrong. And third of all, it's going to take commitment and focus, and that's what I'll bring to you as your next county chair.
Mr. Francesconi, your rebuttal?
The biggest rip in the safety net is mental health and addiction. I just visited the Justice Center downtown. and to see people with mental illness on suicide watches in our justice system in body bags and suicide watches. The first thing the deputies told me when I asked them, what would you like me to do as next county chair? They said, fix this. These people do not deserve to be here. And here's the great opportunity, the Affordable Care Act. Now 160,000 people in this county are going to be covered with mental health and addiction services, freeing up that 16 million, which needs to stay in mental health, but additional 20 million from the county. What we need is more residential treatment, more supportive housing with wraparound services, and peer-to-peer drug and alcohol counseling. We now have a chance to do something about this.
Okay, next question to both candidates. Imagine that you're finishing your first term as county chair. What do you expect the county to be doing at that point with the long-completed but empty Wapato jail? First to Jim Francesconi.
You know, back on that issue, Wapato has caused more damage, failing to deal with Wapato, than the temporary blip with Jeff Kogan. It comes up in house parties and office parties throughout, and we need credibility in government now more than ever in order to address this growing gap between rich and poor. Wapato, I do not fault the construction of Wapato. It's great that we're not incarcerating people in prisons, and there's more that we need to do. But Wapato is not for homeless. You don't put homeless people away from services, away from their communities. It should be a drug and alcohol facility, and it should have been sooner than 10 years later, because we're spending $300,000 a year. That's $3 million that's been spent of taxpayer dollars without being addressed. It was originally designed to include alcohol and drug. The county departments have a plan for that. That's what we need to execute.
Deborah Kafoury, your response?
In 1996, they obviously thought that there was a need to have more jail beds. But fast forward, we know that it's not the case today, and I'm happy about that. I think the fact that we're reinvesting in our community is a much better use of funds. But to say that we haven't done anything over the past 5 years that I've been at the county is really a misnomer. I was handed this issue, and I worked hard. I went to the state legislature to convince them to buy it. I'm happy to say that they've turned their attention elsewhere to putting the money in the community instead. But we did ease land use restrictions to allow the facility to be used for other services. And the county has recently offered an RFI to the community to try to get interested parties to come forward. There's definitely opportunity with Portland State University. There's an opportunity with the burgeoning film and video community. I'm looking forward to solving the problem of Wapato and getting it off our table. And if anybody wants to buy it, please see me after the meeting.
All right, a question to Mr. Francesconi. You've said that the county doesn't have the money for a new courthouse. What do you say to the hundreds of county employees, not to mention thousands of citizens who visit the courthouse every week, who face the risk of the building collapsing in an earthquake?
First, your source, which is inaccurate. The whole quote from Willamette Week included me saying we do need funding for a courthouse. What I said was two things. One is, I'm not running for county chair for the courthouse. It's to close this gap between rich and poor. But what we need is a realistic funding plan, because the courthouse does need to be fixed. I've toured it. It's clear that it needs to be dealt with. So we have some opportunities. One is the bonds are expiring at Wapato in 2010. They expired. That provides a source of revenue. We do need money from the state. I hope that the expectation of the state coming up with $110 million is realistic. We need to push for that. But we're also going to have to look at other sources, federal sources, perhaps new market tax credits. There's some issues there. I did the East Bank Esplanade, light rail on 205. I'm experienced with getting multiple funding sources, so it is something that needs to happen.
Ms. Kafoury, your rebuttal?
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that my opponent has decided that this is an important issue, because it is. We don't have a choice. Multnomah County, by statute, is responsible for the upkeep of the downtown courthouse, and it's structurally obsolete, and it just doesn't work anymore. And I'm very thankful to be partnering with Commissioner Judy Shiprack. This has been a project on the books for 40 years, 26 studies, and no one has been able to figure it out until we came to Multnomah County and made it a priority. I'm a human services girl. This is not where my specialty lies, but when I see a problem that needs to be solved and people's lives are at risk, I know how to do it. It's due to our hard work that we got $15 million from the Oregon legislature last year as a down payment, and I have no doubt that we will fix this problem.
Okay, next question to Deborah Kafoury. You were required to give up your seat in order to run for chair. Why do you think the county charter requires this, and should it change?
Well, I think it has been an issue before the voters before, and the voters have decided to keep the charter the way that it is in regards to this issue. It was sad, a really sad day for me to leave Multnomah County. I love the work that I do, and I feel that every day I'm making a real difference in people's lives. And I had to leave some projects behind that I've worked very hard on, like the downtown courthouse, and like the program that I've been developing with the City of Portland, Commissioner Nick Fish and others, to combine housing and homeless services between the City of Portland, Multnomah County, the City of Gresham, and Home Forward. It's the only way we're going to address housing in our community, address homelessness, and to finally end this problem for too many people in our community. As to say what the citizens are going to put on the Charter Review Committee for the next time around, I look forward to talking to them about it. Mr.
Francesconi, your rebuttal?
I don't think Deborah Kafoury should have had to resign to run for this position. I will recommend to the Charter Commission that be changed. I also am very impressed with the interim leadership who was appointed by their successors, but I don't think that's a credible way to do it with our citizens when they need credibility. But a more important change to the charter is to have a chief operating officer instituted at the county. With a $1.5 billion budget, with 4,700 employees, with the need to do a much better job across the departments of how we're going to integrate these efforts to address glowing, difficult issues. I've had management experience at the city, but creating a chief operating officer is something that I will recommend.
Okay, the next set of questions will be directed to both debaters. First, how will you piece the county health department back together after the debacle involving the county's previous chair? Mr. Francesconi, your answer first.
Well, again, I just want to reemphasize the work, the great work that the employees, including in the health department, are doing in our schools, in our safety net clinics, in our jail. And that work has continued throughout all of this, and we cannot forget that. Getting specifically to your question, I think that it is long past time that there's some reorganization that happens before, and there's an opportunity to do it. Mental health and physical health need to be combined in one operation. And now with the resignation, with 2 openings in human services in the health department, there's a great chance to do it. So that change needs to happen. How we exercise more the public health authority and the mental health authority of the county is something second. But thirdly, the action in many ways has shifted to the coordinated care organizations. And we need to make sure that the services get from the care organizations to our most vulnerable in all areas, but especially including mental health.
Ms. Kafoury, your response?
Thank you. This is one of the reasons why it's so important that we have this election over within May, because we need to have a county chair, full-time county chair, back at work as soon as possible. I can't give enough credit to the work that's been done with the folks during this time, but we have some really tough decisions ahead of us. How we're going to move forward on healthcare transformation, how we're going to move forward with criminal justice reform. There's a lot of important issues on our plate, and we need to get back to work. With regards to the health department, I think that we need to have obviously a full-time health department director. That's crucial. And the chair needs to be involved in healthcare transformation. It's such an amazing opportunity right now where we're going to be able to have full integration of mental health and physical health. We're going to have the ability to partner with local community organizations to hire community health workers, people who represent the community that they serve, to be out in the community, finding people and getting them the health care that they need and deserve. There's a lot at stake here, and that's why I urge you to vote frequently and vote often.
For me.
All right. As county chair, what will your approach be to union negotiations? First, Ms. Kafoury.
Thank you. I'm really proud of the relationship that Multnomah County commissioners and the chair have had with our unions over the past 5 years that I've been on the board. We haven't had any threats of strikes. There has been no negative conversations, contrast to just about every other level of government. In fact, a few years ago when we were in the depths of our budget cuts, the great members, the workers of AFSCME came to the commissioners and said, we're willing to forego our COLA, which will not only save you money this year, it will save you money over the lifetime of the workers, because we have such a good working relationship. I want to continue to have that relationship, and I am positive that moving forward we will be on the right track. Thank you.
Mr. Francesconi?
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that AFSCME, the union for the workers, endorsed me in this race. And it is important to involve the workers, as been said here, in several areas. And AFSCME, the workers, I shouldn't say AFSCME, the workers gave up 4.5% COLA raises in order to help balance the budget. That's number one. Where we really need help, and it's happening in labor management, is on healthcare costs. How we actually work to control healthcare costs is also very critical, and how we engage the unions in that process. There's some discussion, does it stay? And actually AFSCME has passed a bill at the legislature where local governments could perhaps join other larger organizations. But in terms of labor negotiations themselves, there's a department, I'm experienced with this at the city, and there's professionals that do the work. And it is important that we treat the workers fairly, but there needs to be a transparent and open process to have that occur.
Okay. For the first time in years, the county has a budget surplus. Given current needs and future budget projections, what do you believe should be done with the surplus? Mr. Francesconi?
Well, one thing that we do not need, I wouldn't call it surplus, I'd call it taxpayers' money, that a lot of it's freed up by the library district. The great opportunity we have in mental health will not require that now you got me doing it, that revenue, because of the Affordable Care Act and the issues we're talking about. I just really think, and the county's done some good things here, but we've got to deepen this relationship with our schools. That is one of the best anti-poverty devices in the country, so that teachers can teach and there's social services provided not only by the county, but a conversation with the districts about how there's going to be more counseling attached to the schools in a joint conversation. So that's kind of one area. How we push more towards, as I said already, early childhood programs, and how we create many more summer school programs, not just between the county, but in coordination with the city, who shouldn't abandon its responsibility, and the districts themselves.
Ms. Kafoury?
It's really great to be in a position where we're talking about what programs we can add instead of what programs we have to cut. We worked hard over the past 5 years as the County Commission to get ourselves on solid financial footing, and yes, the library district was a part of that. I applaud the efforts of the recent commission to put forward a balanced budget, and do believe that now we have the opportunity to look forward to planning for the future to prevent crises from happening in the first place. We should focus on helping families before they become homeless. We should focus on helping children before they get to school so that they're ready to learn and they can graduate on time. And we should focus on the resources on keeping our offenders here locally to make our neighborhoods safer by providing drug treatment and mental health counseling that people need so they don't have to go to jail. I think this is a great place to be in, and I'm looking forward to having the community conversation about how we use these valuable tax dollars.
Okay. Another question. What more should the county do to combat human trafficking and sexual exploitation? Ms. Kafoury?
Thank you. Well, this question surely is out there for Commissioner Diane McKeel, who's been a leader on this issue during her 5 years in the Multnomah County Commission. What we have done to date has been to open a residential facility, locked facility, where victims can go and be safe from their abusers. I also believe that it's important that we involve the DA and the criminal justice system as well. But one other thing that I'm really proud of that Commissioner McKeel has spearheaded is by holding the Johns accountable. I think you can't talk about how to deal with victims of sexual trafficking without talking about the people that are paying for their services. It's not right, and it doesn't belong in our community.
Mr. Francesconi?
Well, Commissioner McKeel, you deserve credit for this, but you also deserve credit for veterans, making sure they're included in the county. You take care of the workers and you acknowledge the workers. So you've set an example not only for me, but for many people. The first thing is to make sure that Commissioner McKeel's efforts are ingrained in the county operation, not only in the chair's office, but throughout the departments, especially human services, and that there's adequate support in the budget that lasts ongoing. Secondly, I do think it is also about housing with treatment, all treatment that is necessary, especially mental health counseling as well, and wraparound services tied to very low-income housing. There is some efforts, but how those are expanded, I think, is a second. Third, U.S. Attorney Amanda Marshall deserves a whole lot of credit for putting this issue on the forefront, and we need to keep it there, not only with prosecutions, but you asking this question in a public forum.
Okay, now we're going to move to our lightning round. Both debaters will be asked the same question and must choose one of the single-word answers I will offer or hold up their waffle cards. They will answer as soon as I complete the question. I will let our radio audience know when the waffle cards are raised. They will not have an opportunity to expand on their answer. Should we have drained, 38 million gallons of water from a reservoir because a teenager was caught urinating in it? Both no. Okay, thank you. Are current regulations enough for oil trains to safely move through the county? Yes or no? 2 no's once again. Should voters create a city water district? 2 no's. Do you see a pattern here? Okay. You can't do it on this one. Who would you rather see as president, Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren? So you'll have to give a 2-word answer to that one.
Hillary.
Hillary.
All right. Well, first off, I'll have to ask you, should we legalize marijuana in this state? Both say yes. All right, so what limit do you prefer on possession, 8 ounces or 24?
I'm at the lower one.
That
ounces.
lower end for Mr. Francesconi, and I guess that's a waffle card for Ms. Kafoury. Okay. How do you prefer to get to work? 1-word answer: drive, bus, bike, or walk?
Is it prefer or what we do? Let me get a clarity.
Prefer.
Prefer?
Yes.
Well,
Bike.
I'm giving you a 2-word. I prefer to bike, but I drive more than I bike.
Okay, thank you. Should voters privatize liquor sales in Oregon? Both say no. Should the courts uphold the PERS reforms made by the legislature? One yes from Ms. Kafoury and a yes from Mr. Francesconi. Did the judge get it right in ruling that Clackamas County can't hold an inmate for federal immigration authorities without probable cause?
I'm sorry, I was thinking. I apologize.
Did the judge get it right in ruling that Clackamas County can't hold an inmate for federal immigration authorities without probable cause? Both yes. And then our last question for the lightning round: House of Cards or Game of Thrones?
House of Cards.
House of Cards.
2 House of Cards. All right, do we have time to proceed to more questions? Okay, we have time for another question or 2. Each debater will have 60 seconds to respond. What role, if any, should the county play in increasing the quantity of and access to affordable housing? Ms. Kafoury, you go first.
Thank you. I think that the county should play a large role in increasing the availability of affordable housing in our community. And that's what I've been working really hard to do over the past 5 years on the commission, even before that as volunteer on the Board of Transition Projects. I'm really proud of the work that we've done over the past few years, starting with Commissioner Nick Fish and then moving to my work with Mayor Hales and with Commissioner Saltzman, as I talked about earlier, to start with this plan called A Home for Everyone. By combining resources, by combining focus, and by combining our ability to get things done is the only way we're going to address the problem of homelessness and a lack of affordable housing in our community. Every person that I talked to over this campaign feels that the lack of affordable housing and the number of homeless in our streets is not just a blight on us and a sign that as a community we've lost our way, but it influences our ability to have tourism and business in our community as well.
Mr. Francesconi?
There's a lot of great people that have been working on this critical issue for a very long time and who deserve a whole lot of thanks because it's been out of the limelight. The reality is homelessness has increased 8% in this city, because we don't know about the county, and it has decreased in other communities like Miami-Dade. So we do need a coordinated effort. I would go actually further than a coordinated group. We should explore actually combining the $42 million with Home Forward. I'm open to considering that. But more importantly, the critical missing piece is a housing trust fund, for very low income housing. California has this, where public-private money is put in at a very low income housing trust fund. That's what we really need in this community. That's the key, and one of the keys in order to do this. And I would be advocating for this along with a lot of the terrific people that have been working for this a very long time.
Okay, the candidates have been so efficient in their answers, we can continue to plow on with a few more questions. What role can or should the county play in economic development? Mr. Francesconi?
I don't know how you close this gap between rich and poor without the county playing a role along with every government. It's my view that every government has to play a legitimate role in order to address this issue. When we have these kind of poverty rates, there is not a safety net big enough to catch people as we divide. So specifically to the county's role, we do need to raise the minimum wage on county projects in a way that does help. It's raising the floor. We do need to use our purchasing power to hire people and give them opportunities, especially people that are left out and left behind. East County is a tremendous opportunity. The land that's available, the county's responsible for transportation infrastructure to East County. Diane McKeel's helped lead these efforts. Someday, East County can be like Washington County. And then finally, it's the job training side, where we work with community colleges and high schools and employers to create work training opportunities like I've done with PCC since I've left the city. Those are all legitimate roles.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kafoury?
Thank you. This issue has been a defining difference in this race for county chair. I believe that the number one thing that we can do to influence the economy of our community is by doing the job that we do and doing it well. Nobody else does what we do at Multnomah County. And if we don't do it, it's not going to get done. Getting a family housing so that their lives are more stable and they can take advantage of the other services is crucial. If somebody doesn't have an address to put on a job application, it really doesn't matter what the job is that they're applying for. I don't believe that we should grow county government in a way that will put the services that we provide to families at risk. We have the ability to further and deepen our partnership with the over 80 organizations in our community that provide job training. For example, Work Systems, Inc. For their last fiscal year, Work Systems got jobs for 32,000 people. That is an accomplishment to be proud of.
Okay. It was recently reported that the Sheriff's Office accounts for 75% of all overtime across all Multnomah County departments. What can the county chair do to help achieve better law enforcement service delivery and efficiency? Ms. Kafoury?
Overtime in the Sheriff's Office is a serious issue, and it's something that I have been working on and will continue to work on as county chair. It really boils down to two issues. One is vacancies in the Sheriff's Department, and two is the suicide watch and the high numbers of people with mental health in our jails. I'm proud that this year's budget from the Multnomah County Commission and from Interim Chair Marisa Madrigal includes some new programs to address these problems in the short term and in the long term. First will be additional dollars to open up 2 beds at CATC, the Crisis Assessment and Treatment Center, so that people who are immediately experiencing crises can go there instead of to jail. Second will be additional dollars for corrections health workers, so that those trained professionals will be on staff at our jails to decide when and how people are taken off suicide watch, which will save money. And third, as I've talked about over and over, it's housing, supportive housing in our community.
Mr. Francesconi?
Well, first, it's the county chair's responsibility, it'd be my responsibility to make sure that there's a team effort with all the elected officials, the DA, the auditor, the sheriff, as well as the other commissioners. And the sheriff, the way you phrased the question was about law enforcement. On the law enforcement side, the sheriff deserves a lot of, that's his job. He's an elected officer, elected official. How he works with the small cities to provide patrols like he's doing right now, talking to Fairview and Troutdale. That's the cities and the sheriffs primarily. But when it comes to the correction budget, that's a different story. That's about 25% of the county's general fund. And if we're going to getting resources to people that need them most, that has to be dealt with. And the fiscal analysis in the corrections budget has not been sufficient. That needs to happen. So there needs to be a conversation with the sheriff, the county commissioners about how we're going to move more towards line item budgeting in the corrections division.
Okay. Next question. Can our region afford to let the Columbia River crossing die? Mr. Francesconi?
As a one-state solution, yes. It's a two-state solution. Washington State, needs to participate. We told the voters, we told the public that Washington State needed to be part of this. I actually think we need a two-bridge solution, but trying to go it alone, I think the treasurer was right in terms of the bonding authority risk, the tolling risks, the effect on 205 as to you're going to then require tolling there, and there's just too much financial risk. Plus, it sends a terrible message to the public when we say we needed 2 states and then we go try to do it ourselves.
Ms. Kafoury?
I believe that we need a new bridge. And I also believe, and I did tell the governor this, that my experience working on the Selwood Bridge proves that they should ask me to help solve that problem with CRC. I agree that the Oregon-only solution is not the answer, and I agree that we need to shrink the size and scope of the bridge so that it's not a highway project but a bridge project. But ultimately, this is similar to the Selwood Bridge in that we need to get it done.
Okay. Another question. One of you is going to become the chair, and I want to know if there's anything right off the bat you can do to show taxpayers that you can find them some way to save money in the way you deliver services. And I believe this question first goes to Ms. Kafoury.
Thank you. As I've talked about, we worked very hard over the past 5 years to get Multnomah County on solid financial footing. And I think that the most important thing we can do is to maintain our fiscal stability for the outgoing years. As I said earlier, I'm very proud of the work that the county commissioners have done with this year's budget. It's easy when you've been in cut mode year after year and suddenly you have money to want to spend it when the needs in our community are so great. But they kept a strong fiscal sense about them and didn't spend every dollar available, knowing that we need to balance the budget for years to come, to be able to provide the services for that our citizens need, want, and deserve. That's what I'll do as Multnomah County Chair.
Mr. Francesconi?
Two general approaches that need to be more institutionalized. One is the use of audits. I know there's an independent audit, but there needs to be auditor, but there needs to be more regular use. When I was a city commissioner, I required audits of parks, but I also required audits of Portland Public Schools as part of the money that we gave to Portland Public Schools. As I mentioned earlier, for an example, there hasn't been an audit of mental health in 13 years at the county. The second is performance measurements that cut across the departments in a consistent way, but not only for the county, but for the nonprofits that provide 30% of the work for the county. And nonprofits do great work, and some nonprofits, Human Solutions is an example that does terrific reporting. But having consistent reporting and looking at who's doing the best work to help people help themselves. We do have to deal with WAPATO, as I've said, in terms of credibility and money. We have to deal with the corrections budget. And I do think working in a different form with the city, county, and Home Forward, as I mentioned earlier.
Okay. According to the Oregon Environmental Council, the annual cost of health care due to air pollution in Multnomah County is at least $125 million, 200 million in the metropolitan area overall. Because so many of these health problems due to air pollution are concentrated in transportation corridors, lower income neighborhoods, most cases are treated by Medicaid 8 and the Oregon health plan systems. How should Multnomah County assume the leadership role within the metro area to address this issue? Mr. Francesconi?
Well, as I mentioned earlier briefly, with the world of the coordinated care organizations, that really elevates the role of public health at Multnomah County. And the legislature gave Multnomah County the public health authority to actually convene as the public health authority, which it needs to do more often in a variety of public health issues. But on air quality, as people know, air quality is regulated by DEQ. So having adequate stations for monitoring is one. Making sure that the sources of pollution or air pollution are identified is a second. Then using the county's public health authority, it's really convening people together. ESCO and the Northwest Neighborhood Association just put together a couple of years ago a good neighbor agreement dealing with that issue. So the county can set the stage, highlight the issues, work with DEQ, and then bring the community groups along with the source of the pollution together to address it.
Ms. Kafoury?
As a mother of 3 children, I was dismayed to read the reports that the air quality around my children's elementary school is one of the worst in the county. But it's not really about me, it's about the people in our community that are impacted by this who are low income and who are struggling. The county has a well-respected public health department, and they do health impact statements on a variety of issues, most recently on the impacts of coal trains through our community. I think that one of the first things that I will do as Multnomah County Chair is ask the Health Department to look into and analyze California's Diesel Emissions Act and see whether that's something that could be advocated for here. Armed with the right data, Multnomah County can talk to our partners at the state and the federal level about what, if any, regulations need to occur.
Okay, the last question. This is an issue close to me. I ride a bike over one of the county-owned bridges almost every day. What can the county do to make bicycling across its bridges safe and comfortable for all types of riders and reduce conflicts between people using different modes of transportation? Ms. Kafoury, you're first.
Thank you. I was honored to be a part of, along with the City of Portland and Cycle Oregon, the installation of the first ever bike counter on the Hawthorne Bridge. The data that we get from that will help us help inform our decisions about how utilized our bridges are. And in fact, when we were planning for the Selwood Bridge, one of the first groups at the table were the bike and pedestrian coalitions. The new Selwood Bridge will be built with separate bike and ped facilities, some of the largest in the state, to ensure that safety is of utmost importance, to allow people who are commuting by bike to have their own fast lane, while those who aren't so fast by bike can go on the other side of the road.
Mr. Francesconi?
So a couple things. One is there's some things that the county can do that don't cost a lot of taxpayer dollars. There's some striping that needs to happen. I think it's on the Burnside Bridge. There's some lane issues. There's signage across all those bridges. It would be nice, it would be great to separate pedestrians and bicyclists for the safety of the pedestrians, but that all costs money on those regional bridges that should be paid for by a broader group of people. That proves my point that the city should be contributing. So they're responsible for the bike lanes right up to the bridges, and then the county is responsible. That makes no sense. And other people now, it's great, more people are using bicyclists to commute longer distances. So that's back to the authority, the Regional Bridge Authority. And what that does is, that allows the county to put its transportation resources in pedestrian and bike improvements on those 300 miles of streets that no one else will do, the 30 miles of arterials. And then it's a win-win for the bicycling community, more importantly, for our community, because it reduces congestion, improves air quality.
Okay, thank you. We will now move to the final portion of the program, 2-minute closing statements from each debater. We will begin with Jim Francesconi.
Thank you all for hosting us. It would be my privilege to be your chair. The number one issue in our community right now really is addressing income inequality and closing this gap between rich and poor. We're not going to be the community we long to be, despite all the things we're talking about here today, when we're leaving so many people behind. Nearly every issue we care about, schools, housing, healthcare, and safety, is also directly impacted by our residents' ability to have a good paying job. Now, our county mission statement prioritizes the needs of our most vulnerable and explicitly lists social justice as its first value, as it should. That's why I'm running for chair. But we are not meeting the needs of our most vulnerable, nor are we acting justly, unless we confront growing poverty and rising inequality. It cannot only be about the safety net. People want to move out of poverty themselves. Many people scoff at the mission. They say that it's not our job. I'm not here to offer those excuses. I'm here to offer some solutions about how we're going to collectively address this by also linking social service to employment opportunities, just like Outside In and Central City Concerns is doing, and creating pathways to living wage jobs. I've created a plan to do just this. Look at it on my website. It contains specifics by making sure that companies that come here wanting our tax dollars, and local companies, are hiring local and providing good wages to their employees. It talks about how working people can get more job training working through WSI and others. And it lays out a vision, above all, for a crucial partnership with our schools, colleges, employers, and labor, so more of our young people can get good jobs. These are steps that will help us close this gap between rich and poor and include everybody in the economic and civic life of this community. That's why I'm running. That's why I'd be honored to be your chair.
Ms. Kafoury?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming today, and I'd like to thank my family and my husband, Nick Blosser. I'm running because I care about the children and families of Multnomah County, and it is at the county where I believe I can make the most difference. And because it can't be said enough, I'll say it again. It all starts with housing. With a safe, stable home, we can provide the other much-needed services more effectively and help pave the pathway out of poverty. And this is one of the key differences that has emerged in this race. As chair, I want a greater focus, discipline, and excellence in the core services our families and children count on every day. In other words, now that we are on solid financial footing, we need to go farther in executing our mission to prevent these crises from happening in the first place. And based on what I've heard from my opponent, I'm worried that the county will lose focus, trying to do and be everything, and in the process do nothing well. Throughout my career, my intentions have been clear and my motivation sincere. I will not say whatever it takes to get elected. So my request of you is this. Ask yourselves who you believe has demonstrated leadership, depth of commitment, and who is truly and honestly motivated to stand with you in making a difference in people's lives. I hope that you will conclude that because of what I have done, you can have faith in what I will do. As chair, I will bring with me a proven record of honest, accountable leadership, of creativity and tenaciousness in getting tough, important things done, of never forgetting that if you're not making a difference for people, you're not making a difference. That's why I stand before you today and respectfully ask for your vote. But more importantly, after Election Day, I need you to join with me as active, caring members of our community to ensure that the families we serve all get the attention, focus, and honest leadership that they deserve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have run out of broadcast time for further questions and have to stop for the day. Join us next week for the U.S. Senate Republican debate between Jason Conger and Monica Webby. And as we close for today, please join me in offering our sincere thanks to our moderator, Jeff Mapes, our timekeeper, Greg Wallinger, and our candidates for Multnomah County Chair, Jim Francesconi and Deborah Kafoury. We are adjourned.